Welcome to Life in the Feed, a podcast for creatives who are involved in creating content for the internet. Today's host for the podcast, we have
Camille, the creative director.
Content producer, Tony Solis.
Graphic designer, Sam.
And myself, Katie Groh, the digital marketing coordinator at Trib Connect, the official marketing agency for the Salt Lake Tribune.
Each week we look at something we saw in our feed and we talk about it. This time we're doing it a little bit different because we recently have all been seeing some brands rebranding on our feeds. And so we decided to compile them into an episode and talk about rebranding. So what do we mean when we talk about rebranding, and like what does it mean for a brand to rebrand, right? So generally a rebrand is a creation of a new look and feel for an established product or logo line or, division. Right. Sometimes it can be a whole company, like, Facebook's holding company morphed into Meta, for example. Usually this is done to like create a new look, or if there's like new trends going on, companies might want to update their look and feel to attract new customers. It's all generally just done for marketing purposes in general.
Got to keep it relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a range too, because sometimes people will just like update the look a little bit. Other times it's like they'll change the name, the colors, everything. So when we talk about rebranding, it depends. Like it's not all cookie cutter rebranding.
It's definitely on a scale.
For sure. With this in mind, there are some misconceptions when it comes to rebranding. Branding is something you do once.
Definitely not.
You should at least try to do it right the first time so that you're not rebranding every week. But, you can have a good starting point and then kind of work off of that when you finally, years down the line, do your rebrand.
I think of it a lot like, kind of like you can think of it like a housing analogy. Having a good initial logo is like having a very strong foundation. And so that
got good bones.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that leaves room for, upcoming rebrands or designers who after yourself, can take that logo, the foundation, and improve upon it or like add a little flair,
And there's like other misconceptions too, like that rebrands are for failing companies. We know that's not true because there's some really good companies that rebrand all the time. And then rebranding is all about visuals, which
this was my misconception because I thought rebranding was just the logos and the colors and like the outward appearance, and I was wrong apparently.
No. There's like brand voice. Like when you get into branding, like we offer that here at Trib Connect. We can do from a logo all the way up to like a brand guidebook that has like the brand voice, the colors, all of that stuff. Like you can get really detailed into it, and
really in the weeds with it.
It depends, on your level of branding you want to do. So looking to successful companies for a branding blueprint is another misconception. I have gotten some logo designs, and people, like one of them, they wanted it to look just like Sports Center, and it was an SC.
Oh, but you can't.
You can't do that.
And so I did one that was like somewhat similar, and they just kept saying no, and then they like kept sending me the photo, like this is what we want it to look like, and I was like, oh.
But Sports Center, I've actually looked into this logo quite a bit, or this I should say brand. There's word marks, letter marks, emblems, logo marks. There's all these different terms. The way that the Sports Center, the S and the C come together from the two separate words, because the word sports both starts and ends with an S. So the S and C works with Sports Center, but when they have it all written out, you can drop out everything and the SC is still in place. It doesn't have to move because the word S or the word sports ends in S. And I just thought that's one of those things where I look at and I'm like, whoever came across this must have had a moment where they're like, oh my gosh, like, holy cow, this is going to work. And it does. It still works.
Very creative logos, I think, are always cool to find. Like, for example, FedEx. I like how there's the arrow hidden in FedEx. Like
Amazon is my favorite one.
The A to Z.
Everything from A to Z with a smile.
Yep, I really like that. So when they find like a cool, like, I don't want to say gimmicky way to make their logo, but like a unique way that plays on like what their company is.
Hidden, subconscious,
And that one could have been like a happy little accident that they're like, yeah, we were going for that. That's awesome.
Sometimes
we
that's
totally
good.
meant to do that. Haha.
Yeah,
definitely. Boredom is a sign that you should rebrand is another misconception. Sometimes that happens that people do get bored and want to rebrand, but like that's not always true.
But you could, I mean, there's also the thought of like external boredom. Like people are bored with your company. Maybe you should start to look into rebranding.
If you're not doing good, then you're like, oh, got to rebrand.
Yeah, exactly. Internally, I mean, I get bored with, I've done logos for things that for me personally all the time. And I look at them about a couple months later and go, oh, like I'm tired of looking at that. I want to do something different. And for me, it's just flexing my design muscles. But
Yeah.
All in all, branding is a complex thing, and you should think about it for more than a day.
Right.
Take some time on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So this actually all came up because Sam sent us a Slack about Banana Republic's rebranding, which focused mostly, I thought at first it was mostly on the revamped logo and the custom typeface. But then after reading into it, I found out that it goes a little bit beyond that. Part of this was they've been underperforming for years. Their parent company is Gap. And so they announced that they're just going to revamp their brand identity to focus on a democratic, approachable, and inclusive luxury. So it's really more than just the logo, the look, the colors. It's their entire lineup of what they're offering is completely different now. And I think they're designing their outward brand, the logo, to match what the new company, the new focus of the company anyway. So originally, and now, spoiler warning, this is this is not a video podcast. However, if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube, you can call up the video and we're going to throw up these brand logos here for you. So you don't see us, but you can follow along with some of these logos. So I just want to say that right now, because in the studio right now, we are looking at the Banana Republic, their new typeface, their new pattern, the logo. I didn't like this at first because I thought they were doing changing their name to BR, because I just thought I just saw that pop up and I was like, why are they just trying to get rid of the Banana Republic, like the negative things that maybe people have about that brand and just going with BR? But no, that's just their letter mark.
I always like sharing rebrands with other creatives. They often draw very visceral reactions.
Yes.
Very, very visceral. And a lot of the times I think they can be justified. A lot of the times I think it's just designers thinking they could do better. But I think this kind of hits the mark for Banana Republic. I think the pattern is kind of indicative of luxury patterns that have been used in the past. It feels familiar, but like at the same time, kind of like an established luxury brand. Me personally, I probably wouldn't have done the script BR or the script lettering, but
are you talking about this really thin one, or
those bottom two?
Yeah, no, it seems
those are my least.
off.
Those seem the least successful of the markings to me.
I can see.
I know we had a discussion about the previous to the podcast. We were discussing just kind of warm up, guys, but we were talking about like the pattern on the very left there, the BR. Well,
so it's an interlocking BR that has a repeating pattern that you think looks like.
I think it looks like a sports brand, right? Like I think it looks like Bleacher Report
or the San Diego Padres logo. It kind of looks like too, but I personally think it looks very Tory Burch-esque, which we were discussing just before the podcast as well. I mean, I guess that could be kind of a good idea because Tory Burch is in that more upper echelon of shopping providers, right? So they're up there with Coach and Marc Jacobs and all that kind of stuff. And so I could see them kind of going for that kind of vibe where it's more of like the luxury mall stores. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just
not a big fan.
I think it's also important to point out that this is a pattern. So it's not going to be like, it's going to be mostly used in support. Like if you scroll down on this, they've got it in like they've got it like in embroidered. And they've got it as a scarf. They have it embroidered on this texture, which I think is very nice and like very effective. So it's not as like in your face as it may seem,
I do like that. And even back to this script one, this really thin one, it looks like the B is like a thread going through a needle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
cool.
Like
it
is.
It
visual.
See, that's like
metaphor.
that's the hidden thing, like the FedEx and the Amazon. Yeah.
Where's the bananas? I wish. That would be so cool. Okay. Anyways, that one was definitely a cool one to see, especially since they went across the board. It wasn't just
like a light logo refresh or like taking a serif off or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So this kind of opened up the conversation into rebrands that the team had personally thought were successful and some that we thought were less so. So,
because let's be honest, we follow a lot of the stuff in our feeds and we have opinions because we are creatives and kind of do this for a living as well. We could do this for you, but also we do it personally just for fun because that's the kind of silly people we are.
Yeah. I also think it's like important to point out that none of us are really wrong. We all just have opinions on the subject. And like, because our opinions differ, that's what makes the strongest brand surface to the top. I think difference of ideas is how you find the best idea, right?
And we're sharing some examples. We're gonna get to some examples here of rebrands that were done properly and maybe some logo designs and rebrands that didn't work. These are the ones that we're not picking on these companies where they didn't work. That's kind of like, these are universally accepted as like, well, maybe we shouldn't have done that. So it's not just us picking on people.
It's subjective.
It is subjective, but some of them are,
some of them you can look at the market after they did the rebrand and see that the market didn't respond well.
Right.
I think they're good case studies.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough buildup though.
Come on, man.
Let's tell you about the good ones. Sam, what do we got?
Yeah. So the first one that really comes to my mind when I think of successful rebrands or refreshes is Dunkin' Donuts changing into Dunkin', right? Because everybody already called them Dunkin' before they were Dunkin', right?
They just automatically took off the donut.
They leaned into the brand the people made for them.
And they already had a slogan that fit in with the new name, American Runs on Dunkin'. So it's just like a chop, like a quick chop, of something that wasn't, it was like who they were and still who they are, but like kind of like a vestigial, not needed extra word,
And they might have been trying to get away from donuts, being a little bit unhealthy. Plus, they were starting to get known for their coffee as well. So, and if you're getting Dunkin' Donuts, but you're buying that brand of coffee, maybe you don't want to. Although coffee and donuts goes together, so I maybe would have kept the donuts personally.
I think dropping the donuts makes it seem more like a direct competitor to Starbucks, though, because then you think Dunkin' coffee rather than like maybe you would previously compare Dunkin' Donuts to Krispy Kreme or something like that. So they might be trying to change up who their direct competitor in the public's view is.
So this really reminded me of KFC. When I was in high school, KFC was then known as Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then they wanted to drop the word fried because of the unhealthiness. But when I was in high school, the rumor was, this was pre-internet, the rumor was that there wasn't legally enough chicken in the chicken to be called chicken.
Awesome.
So they had
just called
to
it C.
Yeah, so they had to change the name to KFC because they couldn't call it chicken anymore. Not true. It's absolutely not true. They just wanted to get away from the word fried. And everyone, again, they called it KFC already. So they just sort of adopted that. I also, I saw one, they didn't change the logo. And I was a little surprised doing some research for this podcast, that this was a successful rebrand, but Lego. Lego in the... I didn't think of that one. Yeah, so Lego in the, early 90s maybe, was on the verge of bankruptcy. They were really focused on having people create things with their bricks without
like instructions.
They may have had a couple instructions, whatever, but their main thing was they didn't have the branded sets that we have now, these Star Wars sets, the Harry Potter sets. They didn't license those things. It was just Lego stuff, and you could make whatever you wanted.
There was too much creativity with Legos. Creative freedom.
But, once they started licensing, and I think Star Wars might have been one of the first ones, you can build the ships. You had the throne room sets, play sets that you could do. They just turned their company around. And that was one of those ones that, again, it's not necessarily the external logo, that color scheme that we would normally associate with a rebrand. It was a complete restructuring of their company.
Yeah, that is interesting that it's like a subtle rebrand almost. It's not necessarily like how you were saying, like in your face, right? It's more just like, this is what we're now going to start selling, right? I think a good example of one that is in your face is going to be Starry, which for those of you that don't know, this is probably one of the most recent rebrands that I can personally think of. It's Sierra Mist's rebrand. So Sierra Mist is unfortunately no more. That one's owned by PepsiCo.
I wish I could recreate my shock when I found this out in our notes.
Womp womp.
Because we have notes that we share amongst us, a little behind the scenes thing. And Katie, you were the one who put Starry on, and I was reading it. I had it called up at the time, and I was reading it, and I went, "Wait, what? Sierra Mist is Starry? I didn't know."
Yep. I think they've done a good job of either. I feel like it's very 50-50. Either half the population knows that this is Sierra Mist Rebrand, or the other population thinks that this is just some new like soda that's getting really heavy marketing.
I thought it was a new soda.
Yeah. And it's basically just Pepsi trying to compete with Sprite, which Sprite is owned by Coca-Cola. So again, back to the Pepsi Coke competition always. But they just are trying to kind of up their old Sierra Mist. And I personally think that the logo and the vibe and everything there, it's really leaning towards like Gen Z, starry, like it's cutesy, big,
like
bold. Yeah. And then even the tagline, I think, is very Gen Z. It's Starry hits different, which is like
that's perfect.
Terminally online branding.
Well, and they say that's a phrase that a lot of fans use to describe Sprite at McDonald's.
The McDonald's Sprite hits different.
Yeah.
That is absolutely.
That's facts.
It is true, actually. It's different.
Yeah.
So they're trying to use that as like, when you hear hits different, you'll think Starry hits different.
Interesting. Yeah. And that one, I've seen that one all over the place. We just had like the NBA All-Star weekend.
Well, that was when they were doing their big push.
Yeah.
They
were handing them out free.
That's where I tasted it for the first time.
They had girls with like backpacks just like handing them out and everything. Yeah. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
But Tony, you've said that you think Starry tastes different than Sierra Mist, right?
So
we need to have a taste test of this. We should have brought some in.
Yeah. Anybody have any Sierra Mist?
Some archive Sierra Mist.
I was at Regal yesterday and I got a soda. They still have Sierra Mist there.
Oh,
incredible! Or it's still branded as Sierra Mist, but now they're carrying
it's really Starry.
Exactly. Yeah. It hit about the same.
I feel like it tasted different. When we first had this discussion, I did. I felt like it tasted different because I didn't recognize it, and I had Sierra Mist quite a bit.
Yeah.
I prefer Sprite because Sprite is superior in all ways. Just my opinion, but it's facts.
I think the branding is superior to Starry too. If we're refocusing on branding, I think it's very
Sprite's branding is better than Starry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I disagree.
I mean,
for me, I'm an old dude. We've established that Starry is it's so cutesy. I am not going to see that. I'm not going to stop in the store and be like, that's what I need.
Yeah. Like, Starry seems very Insta worthy, like for a photo.
Yeah. It's ready for Instagram. Like I need my Sprite. I don't drink that much soda anymore, to be honest.
I think it could be because Starry is so new, but I think it's more of an attention grabbing branding versus Sprite is, kind of built to last. Plus, Starry feels like kind of a cheap ripoff of Sprite because Sprite, Katie had the Sprite logo pulled up. Sprite has this diamond like starburst shape, and it feels like Starry's kind of taking this like
they are kind of taking the star
bright yellow green pattern and like taking it to the next step, which I don't have a problem with. I just think Sprite's a little bit more established and built the branding, in my personal opinion, is built to last a little bit.
You know what this just got me thinking of that we didn't even have as an idea for a rebrand was literally Sprite with their green bottles. Because Sprite used to be the only green bottle soda. And then when you would see them in the landfill, people started seeing green bottles and they're like, those are Sprite bottles. They started associating the landfill with Sprite, so Sprite changed their bottle color.
And so that's why they're white now?
So that's why it's clear now. I didn't even think about that until I saw the Sprite bottles. I was they used to be green.
Yeah. I think they've modified their word mark a little bit over the years too, but it's still the same brand.
And that's an example of, and we may call up a couple other ones that they're subtle. So they're designed to fit the times, not necessarily like they're going to go for a whole complete like 180 rebrand, like the Starry Sierra Mist thing, which I just I don't like the logo. The logo's not for me. Yeah. I'm not the market audience for that. But I mean, I just always preferred Sprite to Sierra Mist because it just tasted better. And at the end of the day, like you can rebrand and market whatever you want. But if your product's not as good as the other product, you're still not going to do well.
Yeah.
You know,
At the end of the day, I'd still rather have 7-Eleven or not 7-Eleven, 7-Up.
What you want to say? You want to take that one again?
At the end of the day, I'd rather just have 7-Up.
I can't even.
What a rebel.
Yeah, I can't even remember 7-Up's flavor. Like
tastes like Sprite.
It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Tastes exactly like Sprite.
It's not like a Pepsi Coke kind of taste.
I think
it is.
So close.
I think it is.
I think it's like a Mountain Dew version of Sprite. That's what I think 7-Up is like.
Okay, next Tuesday I'm bringing in soda and we're going to have a blind taste test to see if you guys actually know what you're talking about.
I went and found a couple of specifically logo redesigns. These aren't full on 100% company rebrands, but some of the logos that were done now, Facebook and Meta, that goes beyond a little bit of the logo brand, but Burger King has recently simplified their logo. Part of this is, and a lot of these examples that I found are because we're now living in a digital mobile age. Yeah. You know, whereas the logos originally were designed for something different. They're designed for print.
Yeah.
Versus now, like that Burger King logo, the new one, if you've got the Burger King app, that's what you're seeing. And it looks a little better as a logo, being simplified as an icon.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I loved this when it came out. I was obsessed.
You were obsessed?
Yeah, because it's like indicative of their like 70s branding too. It's kind of a return to
and you know
what? It looks like an app icon.
Yes, and that's what it's designed for. It's to be an app icon. And the thing that really works about this is that even if you could not read, you did not know English, you didn't know what Burger King said, you would still know that that's the same brand, even though it's been rebranded. And I think that's what makes this one successful. It's got all the same elements. Yeah. You're not confused. You're not going like, wait, is that Wendy's? Is that McDonald's? No.
No, that's BK, baby.
It's not, you're not thinking that it's a new place. Yeah. And they did try, you brought up a good point. They tried the rebrand with BK a while ago and it didn't really work. Like, even if
BK have it your way.
Yeah. But Burger King is what stuck. And now their rebrand is this. And I think it's incredibly successful because it doesn't stray too far. And I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hate Burger King, but this branding is really nice.
Oh yeah, you know, I will not be eating a Burger King, but I do endorse the branding.
Yeah.
Pfizer's another one that recently did, I think in 2021, they just did a simple rebrand. I don't know if it's more successful or not. I kind of like the older one because I think it looks more like an icon personally.
I've seen the older
similar. The type is all
icon
the same.
Still in use, I want to say, but
yeah,
it looks like they just took the type and added, you know, like an abstract, very corporate logo.
Well, part of the problem too, we mentioned that logo might have been designed for a print world and we're in a digital world now. Yeah. And so the reverse might not work as well. Now that we're in a digital world. Maybe it's because
this is printed also on pharmaceutical products too. So maybe it still is a print world for Pfizer.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. One that I really liked it was Planters. I think this one, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is so much better. Because this is a good example, another one of print logo or print or packaging logo versus something that's digital. You still get the idea that this is Planters Peanuts, even though you don't have the peanut guy anymore on the logo itself.
Rest in peace, Mr. Peanut.
Yes.
That was a very traumatizing Super Bowl commercial.
But you don't have those gradients and that kind of faux 3D anymore, which was sort of a 90s, 2000s
I think death the gradients in logos.
Like
except
Top
when they
Secret popcorn. It looks like that popcorn.
But you know, much more simple, but it still keeps the color palette. It's, you know, even though the font's different, you still know that this is Planters Peanuts. Like it's recognizable enough.
Yeah. I think that one's simplified so much from how it used to be with like the peanut and everything. Like it looks like you can make that in Illustrator in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Just because you can make it quick doesn't mean that it's
ineffective.
that it's not effective or successwork. Sometimes the things you do the fastest.
Debatable.
Yeah,
I think simplicity is often an answer when brands are looking to rework, and I think that's why a lot of designers can get angry because it's not something that takes a lot of technical skill, but it's oftentimes not a question of technical skill. It's a question of like what's going to convey the brand message the most effective. And so whether it takes 15 hours to make the actual logo that ends up getting used or it takes 20 hours and you do some super technical stuff. It's not about it's about finding the process of what works, telling the ethos of the brand, right?
Mm-hmm. This is very much like when you see a plain red canvas in an art museum and everyone's like, well, I could do that. It's like, well, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to think just beyond like the technical skill of the art form, I think, and you have to think a little bit about like the meaning behind it.
Plus, with planters as an example, that's one that's been around for so long, they can simplify and people will know. Whereas if they started off with how it is now, no one would know what it was.
That's an absolutely perfect, fair point. We've got GM up, and GM is one of those ones now. I don't know if it looks like if you're going to recognize that it's General Motors, but they have hidden symbols in here. They're starting to focus on their hybrids and electric vehicles, and so the G is now a gas,
that's
and
so
the
cool.
the M
plug
is the plug.
See the plug.
So you've got the gas and the plug together as your GM.
This one, my knee-jerk reaction to this is whoever designed this likes to shop at Goodwill.
Yes,
it does
looks like
very Goodwill.
It looks very much like Goodwill, but I also see exactly what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me, I don't know why, but it reminds me of the Intel logo.
Yeah, I think it's the blue. It looks like it's a little bit lighter, but it might be that there's more white space, so it could come off lighter.
And then scrolling down too, we've got the last one I'm going to talk about really quick is Paramount, a company that's been around forever. You've got that recognizable mountain that you've seen at the beginning of every Indiana Jones movie. Mm-hmm. But Paramount Plus Paramount is now Paramount Plus, or they have their own streaming service. And so you see this icon on your TV, on your phone. They wanted something, I think, that was recognizable without straying. So they just took the Paramount out of the mountain, put it at the bottom, made it a little bit more simplified, but you still know the company. It's the same font. They've just added the plus and moved things around. But when you see that, you're going to know immediately that that's Paramount. And I think that's pretty successful because of the reason why they were doing it, which is the apps. Mm-hmm. You have to have that app logo.
They simplified that P too, and the mountain. I think
the mountains are really completely beautiful. Different. Yeah, I didn't notice that till they were side by side.
Yeah, I didn't notice there was a different mountain, which I think speaks to how effective the rebrand was. Right, that could have been always the mountain always, and I wouldn't have known.
The old mountain
the Mandela
is really
effect right there
for real.
Really ugly old mountain.
I know. I was looking. I was like, oh, that's a weird looking mountain.
Anyway, that's what I thought was successful. I was looking at the visuals of rebranding. Yeah.
So now we get to talk about some brands that, kind of miss the mark a little bit.
Miss the mark.
Yeah.
That's being nice.
This is all subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, don't sue us. We're just having fun here.
Yeah.
You know what you did.
Yeah, come on. So the first one we have is Tropicana. And
I remember this one.
This is I think one of the best case studies of bad rebrands.
I want this to work. I want it to work, but it just doesn't. I want it to work.
I think the reason why this one didn't work, so basically they shifted from the classic straw in the orange with the Tropicana on the packaging to basically just a glass of orange juice on the packaging. I think that orange with the straw was so well known and people were like, yes, that's Tropicana. I know that brand. That's what I'm going for. Mm-hmm. That people stopped recognizing it in the store and they wouldn't buy it because they didn't think it was Tropicana anymore.
And part of that is because with the new packaging, their word mark Tropicana is
the logo's
vertical.
All different font. I mean, you just can't tell anything.
You could have kept everything the same, but the fact that they turned it vertical makes it harder to read and harder to recognize.
I think, I think what this reminds me of the most is a first year graphic design student attempt at redesigning a brand. I had in my first print packaging class, we had a project very similar to that where we took an established brand and we tried to elevate the packaging, right? And this feels like it feels very intentional and it feels like it wants to be very type focused and kind of minimalist and just kind of a departure. And I think it's where you as a designer have to ask yourself, is this too far? Should I pull back a little bit and lean into what made the branding successful, right?
In the first place.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever did this did a great job.
Yeah.
It just
looks good. It just doesn't look like the brand anymore.
right.
Yeah.
They went too far. It's too simplified. And at some point it starts to look like a generic no brand orange juice.
The brandless, the generic cheap, like what's the Walmart one?
Great value.
Great value. It
Target
starts looking like great value and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
It actually kind of looks like something you'd see at IKEA, like in their grocery
It does
part.
look like IKEA packaging.
Especially because it has that cool little like curved top.
Oh, you know, I never
Looks like
noticed
it's like
that.
the lid.
I love the top on the new one, like with the
I
orange
never
leaf.
noticed
That's
that.
so cool. That's such a nice little detail in there.
Nice
But
touch. Whoever did
But you
this,
still-
bring it back.
But you still failed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And
At
everybody
the end of the day, you still failed.
the market says you failed. Okay, we love you. Okay,
They stopped doing it, so they know they failed.
Yeah,
they know it
they
didn't
reverted
work.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one that we've seen around the valley, especially on like billboards and everything, is Intermountain Healthcare has changed their branding, and it went from like the cute little blue swirls and everything, and like the people, to this like red and purple.
Oh, the
IH. It's
anytime I see
it looks
a
like toothpaste.
logo that tries to simulate like a 3D effect, I just immediately think it looks bad and dated.
It reminds me of a software company. Like, if I saw that Intermountain Healthcare logo, I would think that was a Silicon Slopes company that's like some call center software. You know, I just don't see healthcare in this logo.
Especially on the billboards on I-15. They're like on the website, they're like slowly putting it in, and so it like doesn't seem too bad because they still have the majority of blue and they still have their old logos.
They're
but
just
like
changing the whole color scheme. They had
everything,
blue and green, and now it's red and purple.
Red and purple.
Their initial brand, like, it screams hospital, right? Like anytime you see a vector person with their arms raised up, it's either public works, charity, or healthcare, right? Which is, it's appropriate. This new one has about 30 different gradients in it. And it's just like, why? Like, you're going to have to use this logo as a flat at some point, like in a place where gradients aren't
like
appropriate.
Like if they were to do swag and got it like embroidered or something.
Yeah. And you just need to have like a one color option, and having all these gradients is not an effective way to design a logo or like go about a rebrand, in my professional opinion.
In my humble opinion.
It'd be interesting to read the brand guide on this and to see like where you're supposed to use this and what the different versions are, because we're just seeing this and, you know, it's kind of an immediate gut reaction of like this, we don't really think this works. And I'm trying to look at it in a silhouette form without the gradients, and I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. I tried to click learn more on their website, and all it said was not just a new look, a new perspective on the full screen, and now it's just stuck on a new perspective. So I don't know what their branding is right now, but apparently they're trying to have a new perspective.
That's what their billboards, I'm trying to find a photo of it, but the billboards, that's what it says on it, and it's just red and purple gradient with that. And
a new perspective.
Yeah, it looks like a tech billboard. And so
I think like it's important also to highlight that this isn't just one person's decisions.
Oh yeah, this goes through
a rebrand.
Yeah,
this is so many different levels, and so like when something fails like this, it's kind of it's like multiple people's responsibility. Okay. It's not just one.
I have to ask though, because I don't honestly know. This isn't just me faking, you know, like, oh, we talked about this before.
Right.
I don't honestly know. Is this like, did they fail? Like, is this a new thing? Is this kind of well known that they failed? Are we jumping the gun here a little bit?
I don't know. I don't know much about the public's perception because this is the first I had heard of it. But Intermountain Healthcare is like such an established healthcare in Utah. Also, I just noticed they're now changed from Intermountain Healthcare to Intermountain Health, which I thought was interesting. They got rid of the care.
They don't care anymore.
I guess not.
Don't sue us, please.
I haven't heard the public's perception, but
disclaimer.
Yeah. So it was a joke.
I feel like half the hospitals in the valley are Intermountain hospitals.
Yes,
and so people have seen that logo like since they've given birth to their children. You know, like it'll be interesting to see every single sign change into these different color schemes. I don't know.
So many. It's going to be like millions, if not billions.
So
to rebrand.
I'll say this about their old one, because we're looking at the two right next to each other. The old one looks kind of generic.
Yeah.
does.
But I also am not from here, so I didn't grow up seeing that. So I'm not associating it. I'm just seeing it, kind of for the first time.
Yeah.
Like there's an argument to be made for like how generic it is, right? Because of like
It's
how
so
plain
generic.
it looks.
It's
it looks like a hospital. Like if I saw that logo, I'm probably know that somebody's going to help me there, right? And that's kind of like the idea they want to convey.
It's medical.
Yeah, I know it's medical, or it has something to do with the upliftment of man by how happy that logo is.
I don't know why this reminds me of this, but for some reason I just had the Glass Onion line in my head where he goes, it's dumb. Like, it's so dumb, it's brilliant. Yeah. No, it's just dumb.
That can be a lot of branding sometimes,
Oh, it can.
Yeah.
I probably said the line wrong. It's maybe it's stupid. I don't know. I'm going to call it up and
no, it's just
no, it was good. And even in like the area, you have IHC or you have U of U healthcare. So like
U of U Health rebranded too.
Theirs was not as dramatic as this one, but yes.
I thought it was clever actually.
Let's see.
Let's call it up.
University of Utah's Health, they're new. So they used to just be, I believe, University of Utah Healthcare, like just like that. And now it's called U Health, I believe.
Oh, so this has been like this since I've moved here because this is my healthcare.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I didn't know the old one. This is always what I've seen.
Yeah, it used to be University of Utah Health, and now it's like U Health. And then I've seen stuff where it's like keeping you healthy, like that kind of like slogans and stuff like that. I thought that was like kind of good.
Their branding's really good.
That's nice. You know what's nice? At least U of U and Intermountain Healthcare did not do. I wish I haven't found it. Maybe I'll look it up, and if I can find it, I'll throw it online. Or I'll throw it on the podcast. But if not, just trust me here. I saw a hospital logo or a heart specialist logo, and it was the heart line. The only
EKG.
The EKG. Thank you, Katie. The only problem was they put their logo over the last part of the line of the EKG. So basically their logo was an EKG that flatlines. And that's like, read the room, guys. That's a massive fail. I hope I can find that, and I apologize if you don't see it on there. But that is
a good image to come up with.
Yeah,
in my mind,
you can put it in your head, and you know exactly what I'm talking about when I mention that.
That's funny.
Speaking of squiggly lines, there's also Kia.
Kia, that's the one. I've found this one.
This one's gross. Yeah, this one's so bad. Blech.
So yeah, let's take a look at the logo here. Now, Kia, you could argue that the old logo it wasn't that good. It
it's fine.
A refresh. The new logo looks like a K and a backwards N.
Yeah, it does.
The old logo, it had the gradients. The
old logo's fine.
It's fine. It's
just
not,
take off those gradients. We're fine. Yeah, we're fine.
It's not great, but yeah,
it's effective. It does what you need it to do.
Says Kia.
You can read it. You can read it.
And I don't know if Kia. I think they're a Korean car company. I don't know if it stands for anything specific, but everyone knows what it sees the Kias. I'm shopping for a new car right now, so I have been seeing these logos around. I think that's why it's showing up in my feed a lot.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like an I and an A. It looks like a backwards N. Like somebody's trying to be, the K looks a little weird too. I mean, I see what they're doing. They're following the same angle.
They connected all the letters. Yeah.
So now it doesn't even look like that brand anymore.
Which I when I first saw their rebrand on a car, then I thought it was an Acura. And so I was like, is that a nice car? And then I looked and I was like, wait, Kia?
The first time I saw this was on a newer car that had came out with a new logo. And I was like, what is a KN? What? And then so I looked it up and I was like, no, this is awful. I mean, this to me, as a designer, the first thing you want to do with your logo is make sure that people can read it.
Yeah. And you could make the argument that the logo, yes, does look better, but it just doesn't say Kia. It doesn't say, it might look a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks a little faster maybe.
Yeah,
it might beat the old logo in a race.
But also it's got people talking. So maybe that's been in their favor and they were going for that.
No such thing as bad press.
Yep.
Very true.
That's not true. There is such thing as bad press.
It kind of looks like a I sideways T, I sideways A, like idiot.
But I would say that it does look more luxury, but it doesn't look like their brand. And if that's what they were going for, geniuses.
Yeah.
If not,
I think it looks
failure.
more luxurious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because maybe people were just kind of harping on Kia as a brand. And they're like, you know what? If nobody knows it's a Kia, but we're hiding the logo in plain sight, then they'll be more likely to buy it.
Yeah.
Just like Starry, yes.
And Banana Republic.
Banana Republic.
Okay. Well, I personally think that one is a win, even though you think that one's a lose. So
I think I'm going to...
Kia?
Yeah.
The Kia one?
Yeah, Kia. I like it.
I just don't think it says Kia. I think...
Well, it doesn't, but like I said, I think it gets people talking. It looks like a luxurious brand, like more like Acura. So I think it...
Maybe. If they go...
It definitely puts them in a better light.
If they go back or do another rebrand soon, we'll know that they think that it fails.
Exactly.
We went through quite a bit of logos and discussion, and I think that Camille and I were talking about this earlier. This could be like part one of a series of maybe we just look at what makes a good logo or what you do when you're starting. Because I kind of thought about the Trib Connect logo too, of like, well,
that was a whole process.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was, and it's so simple, but again, it took months. So I'd love to continue this conversation, but we don't have that much time, and this you're not going to keep listening to like for 3 hours as much as I'd like to keep talking to you for 3 hours.
No joke, man.
Yes. So that being said, that is all we have for today. If you do have any questions or want to learn more about how we can help your business create more content, be sure to reach out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit our brand new site, lifeinthefeed.com. That's right.
Shout out Tony.
It nearly broke me, but it's live. And if you found this podcast interesting, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And until next time, bye. When local journalism thrives, democracy does too. Support the Salt Lake Tribune, the nation's first traditional newspaper to become a nonprofit. Visit sltrib.com/donate to help keep local journalism alive in Utah.